If I were to give you $1 billion right now, would you still do the thing that you're currently doing? That single question changed everything for me. For some people, collecting money is their purpose, is their calling. I just realized my purpose is not that. It's to help raise the consciousness of humanity and to make the world happier, healthier, and wiser.
This week, I'm honored to be joined by the host of one of the top podcasts in the world. But more importantly, I'm honored to be joined by a great guy, Danny Miranda.
I was doing the podcast for a while and I didn't fully believe. I heard the voices of people in my life who I respected who said, you can't do this. Every time I didn't have the courage to listen to myself. I didn't have the belief in myself. And it just got to be a certain point, sometime in the last year, for me to go, your voice is correct on this. So listen to that damn thing. I do know that as belief increases, so do results. And so do other people start fitting in and believing you when they didn't believe you in the beginning. This thing can't drop, unfortunately. This mic, it can't drop.
What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody to go into an interaction with more of an interview mindset, and how can they master that form of connection?
It's not about asking the perfect question. Are you really listening? Are you really there with the person? And then are you trying to guide them? To me, that's what a great question is. If you're listening and present to the creation and you're guiding someone.
I've never done this before, so we're gonna see how this goes. Check your DMs.
What do we got here? Oh my God. I got chills. Something in me lit up.
Somehow, deep down, we all have a heart for getting better. Do you know who said that?
I don't.
It was Danny Miranda at 13 years old, writing for his blog.
Wow.
Now, when I think about my 13-year-old self, me and my friends were trying to play Call of Duty professionally, and that was pretty much all we focused on. So I didn't do a lot of introspective thinking, especially trying to make other people realize how we can all have a bigger heart. So I want you to start by talking about your environment, whether that's your loved ones, the area that you grew up in, any factor at that time period that allowed you to be so introspective at 13.
Now, this is going to sound a little crazy, but I don't think my environment is one reason for me to have those thoughts and create that blog. Absolutely. Like, my parents gave me a laptop and a computer, and they loved me, and my grandparents did too. And those are all true. What I actually really believe is I was put on this earth with that. And that sounds so crazy, but I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that I was put in this incarnation in this moment in time for a reason.
Yeah.
And that sounds crazy. Even to me, I couldn't even imagine myself saying that 2 years ago or 3, but that's what I genuinely believe. Cause I created the Sunny Times before this when I was 6 or 7, a media organization, a newsletter to help people get more love and light in their life.
Yeah.
That's not my parents didn't tell me to do that. Right. My parents didn't tell me to do a blog. And there are a lot of kids who got computers from their parents. There are a lot of kids who I grew up with who had love and light around them. But I felt the need, or I felt called to do that. To me, that's deeper than what my parents did or my grandparents did. God bless them. They were incredible. But I genuinely believe it's not anything I did. I think I was just put here with that mission.
Yeah.
So
I've been trying so hard to dive down into the rabbit hole of nature versus nurture and see how different people operate. And I was having a conversation not too long ago, and I made the comment to someone who's older than me, and I said, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my parents. And they were like, I don't think that's true. At some point, you have to have some declarations of your own, and you have to have some way of thinking and something that you hold true to yourself. And I was like, you're right. Of course, nurture is important, but there is nature that is inside of all of us. And what I think is incredibly rare about you, one of the things that I love about you, is that you have found something that you attribute to your nature, and you haven't suppressed it. You have just gone all in on it. And I want to talk about the steps to getting there. So before you were podcasting, before you were asking questions, you were building dropshipping stores. And one of the courses that you took, I thought this was very fitting, being a New Yorker myself. It was called FU Money. Was that?
yes.
So I thought that was very fitting, because I've heard you talk about the difference between coming from New York, being in Austin. I'm currently in New York City. Yep. So that FU money mentality is running rampant still. It's just the nature of the people around here that they want to chase monetary success. And I think that there's not necessarily an evil to it. It's not something wrong with it, but it's the nature of the beast. But you were able to make this decision relatively early on in life that chasing money as the sole thing in life was not what you wanted. So, for anybody who's struggling to define that image for themselves of what they want out of life, what type of questions did you have to ask yourself to be able to get to that point to say, money's not the thing?
If I were to give you $1 billion right now, would you still do the thing that you're currently doing? That single question changed everything for me. Or if you have a year left to live, how would you devote your time? It certainly would not be to create more dropshipping stores. Let me tell you that. For me, for some people, it might be. For some people, collecting money is their purpose, is their calling, is their reason for being. I believe that. Just like I think some people's purpose and reason for being is to collect rocks, like and seashells, and like or lamps or whatever it is for you. Like I think people are very very different, and people have many different like actual purposes. And some people's purpose is money, and that's okay. Some people's purpose is actually fame, and that's okay. And I just realized like my purpose is not that. When I asked myself that question, I was like, oh my God, like it's not anything to do with money. It's not anything to do with fame. It's it's to help raise the consciousness of humanity. And if I have to get famous to do that, amazing. If I have to get money to do that, amazing. But that's just like a byproduct of the mission, raise the consciousness of humanity and to make the world happier, healthier, and wiser.
Yeah.
I came to that in 2020, and I realized from asking those questions that we just talked about, I realized like I'm going to devote my whole life to that. And if you put that on my tombstone, I am content. I am at peace. And guess what? I'm at peace in this moment right now
Yeah.
because I know I'm doing those things every day, whether it's on a podcast virtually or it's in person talking to people or just like holding space for somebody in an elevator and just really being with them in that moment. You could do that in every moment, make someone happier, healthier, wiser, just by being there, by presence, and really just sitting with them. So, yeah, that's kind of my brief journey
Yeah.
to get to purpose.
It's kind of funny. We had a similar journey. The thing that did it for me was somebody recommended that I write out what my dream day is
Yes.
in vivid detail. So I ended up writing like 8, 9 pages of what my dream day was. And this was right after I graduated from college. And I said to myself, okay, my current path that I'm on, I'm working in the financial sector. It's not going to get me to that dream day, which involved being there with my family, having time to spend with them, being with loved ones constantly, being present. To me, that's so important. And I said to myself, okay, what's something I can do to be more present? Podcasting. I think that's an awesome way to do it. I think you can make a killer network doing it. I think you can have the freedom to do it anywhere. I think it will make you a better person. And that's the road I chose to go down. But what I want to ask you is something that I still continue to deal with. And it's I'm pursuing this passion of mine, but I haven't fully quit my job yet. I haven't seen a single dollar from doing podcasting. I lose I lose money constantly, but it's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. My question that I keep asking myself is it really worth it to go all into my passion? Like, should I
Mm.
just play the safe road, take the 9 to 5, make a decent living, have the stereotypical life that a lot of people would aspire to, but it's not necessarily what I want to aspire to. So when those doubts creep into your own head, how do you go about fighting back the question of, is it really worth it to dive deep into my passion?
When those doubts did creep into my own head
Yeah.
is the question, because I've honestly overcome those doubts, and it's been a journey of overcoming those doubts. Like I was doing the podcast for a while and I didn't fully believe
Hmm.
that I could do it. I heard the voices of people in my life who I respected who said, "You can't do this. You're never going to be successful doing this. Why would you even, consider doing this? This is a waste of your time.
Hmm.
This is a waste of your energy." Like, yeah, you might be good at it, but it's like, do you know how many people actually make it as a podcaster or whatever it is like that? But I've realized that all my life, the the battle is actually between other people's voices and my own. The battle is actually between when I'm 13 years old, writing that blog. Do I listen to the woman who writes, "There's no way this is a 13-year-old, and if this is a 13-year-old, he should not be on the internet"? Do I listen to that voice or do I listen to my own? I listen to her voice. When I was supposed to go to college, do I listen to my parents' voice of like, "You should go to college," or do I listen to my own voice of, I don't think college is the right path for me.
No.
And every time I didn't have the courage to listen to myself, I didn't have the belief in myself. And it just got to be a certain point, sometime in the last year, like moving to Austin and then just like deepening my understanding of myself, deepening of my purpose, deepening of every single interaction I would have on the podcast, for me to go, oh no, like your voice is correct on this. Like it was correct probably when you were 13. It was correct probably when you were 17 or 18, and it's correct now.
No.
And so listen to that damn thing. And you don't have to listen to it. You can pay the price of not listening to that voice by taking a job that doesn't align with your purpose, doesn't align with your soul, by fitting the world, fitting yourself into the world that's around you. Or you could take the path of this is your world. You're creating this thing, and everyone else will find its way to you if you are open and you are willing to expand your vision and you are willing to stay true and committed to who you are. And I had enough. I had enough of other people's voices. I heard enough times that my own voice was correct from other people, which increased my own belief in my own voice. People say, dude, you're a really great interviewer. Oh my God, you're great. Oh my God, I never said this in a podcast. Oh my God. It's like enough of that. Okay. I hear that enough times. I really believe now.
No.
I really believe with all my heart. So I guess the question is for you is like, how much do you believe? That's the question. And it sounds like you like 50-50 believe. Like you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
like this is like what I love doing, but like other people in my life don't see that and they shouldn't see it. And that is the actual battle. That's the battleground of your life right now.
Yeah.
And the quicker you come to the conclusion and the understanding that you can do this if you put your mind to it and you believe in yourself, it will change everything you do. You'll take everything way more seriously. Maybe you get an editor for the podcast. Maybe you start doing trailers. Maybe you tweet about it 20 times instead of 5. I don't know. I have no idea what like your whole thing is, but
Mhm.
I do know that as belief increases, so do results, and so do other people start fitting in and believing you when they didn't believe you in the beginning. Is
Yeah.
this thing can't drop, unfortunately. I don't think. This mic.
Oh,
It
yeah.
can't drop.
That was a good one. I was confused for a second. That was a good one. But you hit the nail on the head, dude. It is a battle with me. And I think I've passed the 50-50 point on belief. I I think the thing that holds me back from not being 100% is I'm such uh, how do I want to phrase this? When I was studying philosophy in college, there was this idea about living the observant life. And when it comes to living the observant life, that means trying anything and everything and getting the most out of everything that life has to offer. And when I spend so much time doing podcasting and then I don't see the external validation that I'm seeking because of my ego, that's purely ego driven. When I don't see that, I feel like, oh, am I living the examined life? That's the word I'm looking for. Am I living the examined life where I'm putting my energy towards something that's important to me? Am I trying everything that I can to get the most out of this experience? And I think I'm conquering that ego more and more every single day by continuing to be present and focus on what's important to me. My relationship with faith is absolutely important. When I focus more on that, I say to myself, okay, if I'm good with my relationship with faith, if I'm good with myself, it doesn't matter what the external voices say. And another struggle that I had for the longest time was, what's my voice and what's an external voice? Those thoughts just became mixed up. And I had to really sit and be present to think about, okay, these are my thoughts here. So, similar to you, when you're podcasting, I know when you were writing previously, you had made a comment talking about how when you started the website, you felt like you had to be someone who people would want to read their work. You had to change who you
Yes.
were. How have you shifted that mindset now with podcasting? So instead of bringing on guests that you think would get more clicks or asking questions that would maybe be more risque and get more attention, you stick to what's important to you and maybe what's important to a smaller group of people, but the people that you really want to connect with.
Yeah, it's funny. I still think what I said then is true. Like, I want to be someone whose work is worth reading. I want to be someone whose podcast is worth listening to.
Mhm.
Meaning, what I mean by that is like when I'm on a run, I'm thinking like, I'm not just running for myself in this moment. I'm also being the type of person who someone would want to listen to somebody who's been on a 15-mile run,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that is an important piece, like expanding my life, like meditation, right? Like I want to listen to somebody who meditates every day because that's the type of person that I want to be,
Yeah.
more present, more engaged, more connected spiritually, right? And so, yeah, I still think about that to this day. Is like, am I becoming somebody who is worth listening to or not? Because you always are, right? In every moment. And I think I think it's having that, when I'm writing, having that audience and having when I'm podcasting, having that audience in mind is a very helpful way for me to hold myself to a higher standard
Yeah.
because I have the accountability of other people.
Yeah. It's that win-win-win mentality that I've heard you talk about, where you get the win, the guest gets the win, and the audience gets the win. Having those three in mind, especially as a podcaster, I think is really important. And for someone who's listening who might not be a podcaster, just having that win-win mentality anytime you go into an interview, into a conversation, is so important to having that experience be memorable and demanding respect. What I think your X factor is, and what you do to demand respect right now, is those "we do our research here" moments, which every time I see them, it's wow. No one else in the game is doing it to that level where they can get something out of people who have gone on hundreds of podcasts. They answer the same questions over and over again, but you show, okay, I'm in tune with what you're doing. I want to ask you something different. So for somebody who's listening and is like, "Ah, how does this apply to me? I'm not a podcaster." Have you had any of those moments, like we do our research here just in real life? So what I mean by that is
Mhm.
maybe you're talking to somebody and you bring up something they brought up months ago, but you maybe wrote it down and just remembered it, or you're having a deep conversation and you're able to come full circle in the conversation and show that, hey, I was truly listening to you this whole time.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it happened yesterday or 2 days ago when I was driving someone was driving me home and I brought up something they mentioned to me 2 months ago and they were like, "Oh my god, how do you recall that?" I don't think I have a great memory. I just stuck with me when they said it.
Yeah.
It was about a relationship or like their patterns with relationships. It happened earlier today when in some sense I was walking by somebody on the street in Austin here and I was like, the guy passed me and he was wearing sunglasses. And I said, as he passed me, I said, "Excuse me, did you run across America?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did." How'd you, um, and it was just like a guy I follow. His name is William Goodge, and he's just an absolute legend. He's one of 300 people, I think, in the world to run across the United States. And if I didn't know that in that moment, I couldn't have possibly brought that to his attention. And that's just me being aware of what my friends are doing and people who inspire me. And so I was like, dude, I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a long time. It's funny that you mentioned the X factor being the research. I actually think the X factor is the presence, meaning the research allows me to get really with somebody in the
Yeah.
moment and to not look up to that person, or it's to admire that person with respect, like they're on the same playing field. And it's like, listen, I really appreciate and respect and love you, and I know like you've done some amazing things, and like let's talk about them, not as like a super fan, but just as somebody who really appreciates you for you. I think that's the X factor, because when I listen to my tone while speaking to William Goodge, it was a level of like, dude, you're a legend. I appreciate you. You're a savage, but also like, I appreciate that. I appreciate myself as well. It wasn't like looking up to him by virtue of putting myself down. It was like looking at him eye to eye. So that's kind of what I think. But I appreciate the question on your
Yeah,
end.
of course. Bring it to our generation as a whole. And just for your reference, I'm 24, so I'm grouping us in the same generation.
Oh, dude,
In
you're
being,
you're wise for 24.
oh, thank you. um, one of the reasons why I wanted to start this show is I wanted to address topics directly attributed to people around our age that hold us back from either finding fulfillment, finding success. And being present is one of those things that I don't think a lot of people around our age do very well. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's personally, you go to a party, everyone's on their phone, maybe they mingle for 10 minutes and everyone's in the corner on their phone, stuff like that. You're at work, people are afraid to ask questions to their boss, they're afraid to stand out. Familial relationships, people, I know some people my age that can go months at a time without speaking to family members, but nothing wrong with a familial relationship. They just don't take the time to carve out time from their day to do that. What do you think holds us back from being present?
It's a great question. I think we live in a world that is always giving you the next hit.
Yeah.
The next hit of a text message, the next hit from social media. Oh wait, I don't have any hits on anything. I don't have any hits. Oh my god, does anyone like me? Oh my god, oh my god. The next hit of drama, the next hit of sports, the next hit of you name it. We are inundated with hits of external forces and ideas. And we have very little time, or it feels as if we have very little time to sit with ourselves, sit with our thoughts, or just be in nature, just be. Like, and so I think it's very hard to be present if you haven't spent an hour a day without your phone. Like, it's just hard. It's hard to be present. Because the phone gives you seemingly everything you think you want.
Yeah.
And or the laptop or whatever it is, the device, the external force. So I think the reason for the lack of presence is the device, but I love the devices. They've given me so much, and they allow me to be present with so many people across the country, across the world. And I think it's that we've lacked a lot of spiritual connection. I think that's deeply connected to the presence piece as well. It's just like how many people in New York City are just going to church? How many people in New York City are meditating?
Yeah.
I didn't know many people, and if I were to live in New York City again, it would be first thing I would do: find a church, find a place to meditate, find stillness and peace, because presence is closely connected to stillness,
Yeah.
and in a world that's constantly buzzing at you, it's very hard to find. So I found it through meditation, and that's what I'd recommend for people: just 20 minutes in the day before you start your day, just to sit with yourself.
It's so I've heard you talk about meditation so often to the point where I had to try it for myself. And
I love that.
thank you. The style that I chose to do is I'm a Christian, so I wanted to read up on what does it mean to meditate as a Christian. And
Mm,
they recommended that instead of trying to empty your mind when you meditate, what you're supposed to do is the only thing you think about is your connection with God.
I love that.
And that's it for 15, 20 minutes, kind of like a form of prayer almost. And when you talk about devices, I've heard you ask people like, what do you worship, who do you worship? And I think a lot of people worship the devices now, where if
I got chills. Something in me lit up when you said that. I think that's a very good point.
yeah, I think we're starting to see it more and more of this social currency that comes with being online, and the separation between our physical self and our digital self. They can be two completely different people. Have you, this is going to be an interesting turn. I wasn't expecting to go here, but are you on TikTok at all, or not really?
No, I'm not. I
Okay,
haven't opened TikTok in
good.
6 months, a long time.
Keep it that way. There was a trend going around on TikTok, and it was someone known as Tube Girl.
Okay.
Have you ever been to London?
No, I want to go though.
Oh, it's awesome. We'll have to talk about. I'll give you an itinerary. But
Please.
so here's the framework for this. So Tube Girl in London, kind of the opposite of New York City subways. You know how it's just cars and they're closed off. There's doors here. So in London, there's no doors on the tube, so you can get like a nice wind coming through the tunnel. So like
Okay.
what Tube Girl did was she holds up her phone, she starts dancing in public. Everyone's watching her. Like the middle of the day, people are just on their commute to work. And she has the wind running through her hair. She's like holding her phone like this and she's just dancing. And people were commenting on it and making videos about it saying, this is a prime example of how we worship our digital selves over the physical self now.
Hmm.
Because this girl has no regard for how she looks in the physical world, because the value that she's getting in the digital world is too great. So because she
Hmm.
did this in the digital world, she's been able to have brand deals, meet other influencers, and she's completely changed her life because she was completely cool looking silly in person. And we worship the devices. And I don't think a lot of people can do what you say and even just have an hour of time without the phone.
Hmm.
Because imagine going an hour without God if you were a religious person.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. I I mean, in one sense it's sad in the way that like you describe in some sense, but in another sense it's amazing that people
No.
can elevate their position in life by virtue of connecting with any person in the world.
It's crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
dude, that is so wild and so amazing and so spectacular. Obviously, that comes with the cost.
Yeah.
And it's like the reason why I'm here is to just ask, like, can you have both?
No.
And I know it probably will take longer. I know it probably will it won't make sense to some people, but it's like I want to have both. I want to connect with my heroes. I want to succeed in the digital world. I also want it to not come at the cost of my own presence, my own authenticity, and my own realness. And
Yeah.
perhaps Tube Girl was real and truthful, and that's what she was doing anyway. And she just wanted to document a cool moment
Yeah.
for her friends or for people around the world. I like to take the most generous interpretations of things,
Same.
and I think that gives me a lot of peace. And uh, amazing for her. Like
No.
it's so cool, and I support it. Given if she's doing everything ethical, and I don't know a lot about her, but
No,
yeah.
I completely agree. I don't know anything about her, but if she's not hurting anybody, let her do whatever she wants. And she's
Hmm.
and she looks like she's around our age. She's just having fun.
Yeah.
Imagine anyone around our age right now just took one video and just changed their life. Good for them. That's amazing. And I do think you can have both. I think, like today, shoot someone a message over the internet, and now here we are meeting for the first time. The same kind of thing. I know you've done no technology retreats, and
Hmm.
one thing that I love to do is I'm a big hiker and camper. Are you into that at all, or not really?
I love going around hiking in Austin, but I've never camped at all.
I think you should. I think you would really like it. I
I
think you
believe I
would.
would too.
Yeah, one of the most amazing spiritual experiences I've ever had. It was quite recently too, twice. I've been fortunate enough to like climb mountains. So I did
Wow.
one in Colorado. It's called Mount Elbert. It's the second highest peak in the continental United States, like 14,003 something. Don't quote me on that. And then
Wow.
I recently went to Banff National Park in Canada. I got to climb another mountain there. And both times when I got to the top of the mountain, no technology the whole time, long climbs, like 8, 9 hour days. I just got to the top. I was very fortunate that there are clear days, no clouds, no worry about having to get down. And I just felt called to meditate, to be present in
Wow.
the moment. And I think if you had that opportunity yourself, I think you would have a very similar experience. There's just something about being in nature and quite literally conquering a mountain that it, it is spiritual at its core. And it's really something to see. Is there anywhere in particular in the physical world where you feel most present? I know meditation is that thing that gives you presence, but is there somewhere where you feel that?
The the lake here, there's a river slash lake. It's called
Yeah.
Lady Bird Lake. It's a 10-mile loop. I feel so present, so connected. So then there's something called Barden Springs, which is about a mile or two from my place from by walking. And it is like it's transcendent.
Yeah.
I should definitely go more. But just being on the lake, being on the river, it's special, man. Like just people are so kind. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's in a good mood. I could just go there and just recharge. Like
Yeah.
that, I definitely feel very present there, and I feel very present when I'm talking to people, whether
Yeah.
virtually or in person. Like you're full screen right now, just all I can see. And when I when I like interview people, I'm there with them, So I feel very present podcasting and when I'm going around that lake for sure.
I want to talk about the people aspect because I just think of it in New York. So I do like the reverse commute. And when I'll come back, I don't have a bus or a subway stop that's really convenient for me. So it's like 20-minute walk back to my apartment. And the entire time it's just people head down, stomping away again to their next destination. And no one has that friendly attitude. I'll go on runs. Some people will wave, but no one ever really like stops to say hello or anything like that. And I think it's good to ask you this question because you came from New York too. How important was getting out of an environment where people are very work focused? It's very coastal, that type of environment. Getting to somewhere where people are more focused on being in the moment and just connecting with each other. What does that do to your psyche?
You could just I think it would be an interesting side by side of just my face from
Yeah.
maybe like October of 2022 or November of 2022 versus November of 2023. Like I wonder if you could actually see it on my face. But just from like an actual like how it feels inside, dude, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It's a breath of fresh air. oh my God, like what an amazing thing. Oh my, like I can't say enough good, like whatever I say right now can't even like do justice to the experience. It's that different and that in alignment with my soul. Like I am here in this time and place and it is so perfect and suited to me that it's insane. Like I said to my aunt one time, or my aunt said to me, you know, I thought I was born in the wrong place because my aunt is very similar to me. She loves life and she's super positive and energetic and always giving love to people. And she's like, I always thought I was born in the wrong place. She grew up in New York her whole life.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Austin, I was telling her about places. She's like, I actually just think I was born in the wrong place and I'm in the wrong place, not necessarily should have be born in a different time. And I thought that was very indicative. And I think a lot of people, perhaps in their 20s, think that way
Yeah.
of like, I'm not supposed to be here, wherever here may be. And there is a place for you. There's so many different ways to human. And I think a lot of it comes down to having the courage to listen to your own voice and intuition on that rather than this is what my parents think I should do. This is what mom thinks I should do. This is what dad thinks I should do. This is what my friends think I should do.
Yeah.
What do you think you should do? And if you don't know, have the courage to explore. Right? That's what I did. I lived in San Diego for a year and that was unbelievable, but it wasn't fully me. It was maybe me at like a different point in my life. Hence why I went back to New York because wasn't a perfect. Austin is a perfect connection. Like I
Mhm.
can't, the people, the youth, the weather, the energy, all of it. 10 out of 10. It's me. And I'm really grateful to have found it and to live here because I don't know. I just wouldn't have the same energy or enthusiasm for life if I didn't.
No. When
Come
it
out
when
here,
it
bro. Come out.
I
Like you
I
would
I
love it.
need
You would love it.
I need to. I need to
Yeah, I
make a
know you do.
change. And the one thing that the one thing that holds me back is my family.
Of course. And I
Yeah.
said the same exact thing. I said the same exact thing. And I was viewing their perspective for my life greater than my own. And
Yeah.
that's okay. That's completely fine to make that judgment. And
Yeah.
that's a person by person thing. And I was in the exact same position as you. But then I visited once and then I visited twice. And then I was like, wow, like this place is really me. Then a third time. And I was like, I can't deny this. This is the internal
Yeah.
voice. This is the knowing. And yeah, if you want to take that step, visit for a weekend and see if it's for you.
All right. Mark it down. I'm going to come
Mhm.
visit for a weekend and we're going to go on a run together because I'm a big runner
Oh,
too.
dude, if that would be amazing. If you figure it out a way to do it on Tuesday, I host a weekly run at 7 a.m. with right now it's like 25 to 30 guys who just
Yeah.
come out and run at 7 a.m. It's unbelievable. The energy, I feel so good after. And yeah, no, that might be hard to do with this work schedule or whatever, but
No,
just
we can make it
throwing that
work.
out there.
We can make it work. I'll find a
Yeah.
way. When you
We're doing that.
care enough, you'll find a way,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
facts. That's true.
And you know what the funny part is about my family? I guarantee you, if I went up to them and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna make this move," not one of them would be like, "Oh, don't do it." Like I'm so fortunate to have that support system with my family, which I
Yeah.
know a lot of people unfortunately don't. And it, it's such a dichotomy in my head. Like, oh, it's such a blessing. I don't want to give it up, but at the same time, it's such a blessing that they're so supportive. Like, it's a weird place to be in mentally. Um, but
I
it
don't think
comes. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you need to make a decision to
Yeah,
move or not. I think you just need to explore.
yeah,
And like in your heart, like, all right, like the way you describe New York City, you were just like, this isn't me at a deep level. Like no one's like saying hi to each other.
yeah,
Everyone's so focused on money. You know intuitively that it's not you at the deepest level. And so the question becomes, do you have the curiosity to explore what is truly you?
yeah,
And maybe the reason why you're not is because then you have responsibility. If you know a better place for you and you see a better place, then you have to say, oh damn, like I actually have to have this hard conversation with my parents. I actually have to take that step. So I
yeah,
think that's what I did for a long time. I was like, I don't even want to explore because I know if I explore, then I have responsibility to actually follow my heart instead of what my parents and family are
yeah.
doing. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. What's that next frontier for you for exploration?
It's my soul right now. It's how can I deepen love, abundance, success every day and just continue to pour that into other people. How can I live in my purpose 24/7 365? I feel like I'm there, but I just like I want to deepen it. I want to inspire other people. I want to be there in every moment. I want to, like, if the elevator, I'm speaking to someone on an elevator, I want them to leave being like, what? Something's different about that dude. Like, what is he on? You know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the mission that I'm on now, and the exploration of myself, so that I can, just give to others in the ways that I know how.
Just sitting with that for a second because I think it's so true. And yet, it's something I've talked about before with other people that we as a generation are denying this universal truth that we as humans need love.
Mm.
I don't know. I still haven't figured out why we're so content with convincing ourselves, okay, I don't need a partner in my life. I'm completely content on my own. I have no desire to have children. I'm completely content on my own. I don't need to uh, give to charity. I don't need to be here and do X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm content with just doing it on my own. But the more that I did that, and granted, I'm still very young into my career, the more that I did that, even in the early stages, I felt empty. I was like, oh my God, literally a weight on my shoulder. And once I started to find ways to get it off my shoulder in the little things, it didn't have to be grand gestures of, oh my God, I'm going to give all I have to charity and stuff like that. Just small gestures in the community with friends, with loved ones. It changed my world 100%. So, kind of similar to what I asked you previously about why do you think we struggle to be present? Why do you think we struggle to be selfless?
Because the profile in social media is inherently self.
Yeah.
Everyone in our generation and younger has created a social media account where they check their own profile as much as they check anyone else's. And that creates you as the center of the world. It's like the mirror gets invented for the first time. Oh,
Yeah.
look at this mirror of myself. Like, this is pretty cool. Oh, wow. Like, this is amazing. This is what I look like. Amazing. And so we are dealing with the mirror being social media, and it's now a more potent mirror for who we are. And
Yeah.
it's even true with the algorithm, right? Like, people complain about, I'm getting a lot of fights on the algorithm, or I'm like anger or politics. It's like the algorithm is you. It's the
Yeah.
clearest mirror that's ever been presented of what your mind thinks. My algorithms are, it's love everywhere. You know, and I'm like, I wonder why that is, because I just feel love for myself, and I am emitting that, and it's coming back.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think the reason for the selfishness is the social media profile being the front and center of what people are worshiping, and their own profiles are the thing they're checking the most.
I just had a business idea while you were talking, and anyone listening, feel free to steal it. Imagine there was a social media platform where the only thing you were allowed to do was promote your friends.
Oh,
Like you could
I love
only
it.
shout out your friends. I think
That's
someone
what a
would find
podcast is.
That's exactly what a podcast is. Someone would find a way to warp that completely, but I hope someone can run with that. But
That's cool, man. I love that. That there's something there,
there,
and
I
there's
feel
something
like
there
there is
that
something
society
there.
needs.
Someone pick me up on that, please. You're so right, though. It's just we're so focused on the self in all forms of media, I think, and especially the generation that we are in. We've grown up on it
Yeah,
to a higher degree than anyone else because we're the first generation who has had internet the entire time we've been alive. We have
yeah,
had an influx of entertainment our entire life, an influx of music, this abundance, and it's all one message directed towards people. It's that you are good on your own, which I think is important. Like, you need to have self-love, but we need to love each other. Like,
yeah,
if you can't ask yourself why I feel empty if you're just focusing on yourself, and it's like the answer is I'm not focusing on others. I think a lot of people need to sit with themselves and have that conversation. When you're meditating, how do you go about listening to the voice? Because
mm,
when I was first meditating, I remember having this experience where I sat down and I tried to clear my mind, and I just started literally hyperventilating. Like, I was getting
really.
angry. Yeah.
At
And
what?
this was a point in my life where I was very insecure. And this was a period where I was just starting to really dive into like all the self-help, rah-rah kind of talk and everything that comes along with that. And I was finding that, on the surface level, I could say that, oh, yeah, self help, I feel great, but it didn't make me feel any better as a man. I didn't feel whole for a variety of reasons. I mean, just to give you the top of the list, I was like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. I feel like I'm not as good as I should be. I feel like I'm not there for my friends as much as I should be. I'm not sticking up to my religious obligations, top three out of the head. And when I sat down to do this meditation for the first time, I was getting so angry at myself because I was really starting to think for like one of the first times. And I remember, and sorry for anyone listening, you're going to hear me breathe for like 2 seconds, but I remember going like, and it was like scary.
Hmm.
And it almost shunned me away from doing it again. But
Wow.
then I was like, no, I need to tap into these emotions that I'm feeling because if I continue to suppress them, I'm only going to be harming myself. So have you had a similar experience, whether it's meditation or not, where you've had to embrace emotions as opposed to suppress?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What comes to mind for me is in on September 9th, 2019, when I wrote a letter to my friend Tej, where if I was meditating, it was that letter to him of telling him,
Oh, sorry.
"Hey,
Funny,
man."
funny you
Yeah,
mentioned that.
yeah, go for
So, a dramatic reading.
it.
So this is Danny Miranda to Tej. As you know, San Diego is fucking dope, but I'm in a big time rut. I really should be more motivated than ever. I'm in a sick location. I have some stuff, but not everything I want. But the truth is, I have no idea why. I just don't feel like doing anything except going to the gym. When I go to work, I just have no desire to. I wonder if this is just who I am. Because I had the same mindset in college. When I go to think about an agency, I think I have no experience. So how can I be good? When I think about building a product business, I tell myself I'm not good enough. It's so weird, man. I know I should be grateful for the job, the life I'm currently living. In many respects, I am. I just don't care to do the work anymore. I say I want to, I say I'll snap out of it eventually, but instantly uh, is doing the same. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I apologize for writing this email. I feel like a bitch. I debated hitting send multiple times. I'm sorry, man.
That's September 9th, 2019. And if I was meditating in that moment, it would probably be like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Oh my God, like I'm so screwed. Oh my God. And so I've been there, and
Yeah.
I feel that. And so it was a week later that I started meditating for the first time and really coming to new realizations. But I mean, it didn't happen immediately at all. I didn't think it would work. It worked at all, even after doing it for 90 straight days. And, it's like maybe it's darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
That's the best
Yeah.
um, realization I had from that.
Yeah. For anyone listening who hasn't done any form of self-reflection, what's one question you would give to someone else that they can go about beginning to structure a self-reflective habit?
Mm. I think it's funny, like in those terms, because I don't. Obviously, meditation is self-reflective. I
Hmm.
I don't know if there were specific questions I asked myself. I mean, what I would say for people is like, how are you spending your time, and how is it in alignment or not with how you want to be spending your time? And the way I understood that is like, if I gave you $1 billion, would you still do the thing you're doing? And
Hmm.
for me, I would not create drop shipping stores if I was given $1 billion. Hence, that is not my purpose. That's not my reason for being. And I'm wasting my time in many respects by doing that. And so I think if you want to really get closer to your true self, if you want to reflect on yourself, ask yourself, if I had everything I say I want, money, fame, whatever, then what?
Yeah,
Then what would I do with my time? I think that's the most powerful way to get to new understandings about yourself,
I
as well as
agree.
if you had like a year to live.
Yeah, both of those mindsets I think are really important. And going back to exploration, I think one thing that holds people back that I think they can really take away from this conversation is to explore means having to meet new people, having to put yourself out there. And especially for someone who's not trying to do podcasts, they're just your typical person, maybe they're trying to find a new job, try to network into a different field, try to make new friends at a new friend group in a new city.
Mhm.
There's different strategies that come along with building those relationships. And maybe approaching someone in a conversational sense isn't the best approach to take. Maybe if you approached it more in an interview sense,
Mm.
you would have a better rapport built with that person, especially if it's someone older, because it's harder to converse with someone who's like 60 years old in a position of power. Like, what are you guys realistically going to talk about? Like the weather. There's not much to connect upon. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody to go into an interaction with more of an interview mindset, and how can they master that form of connection?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's about doing your homework. And we talked about research before, but no older person who you want to be around is going to be upset at you for doing too much homework on them. They're going to appreciate it. And they're going to they're what happens when you're friends with someone is you've built a mutual context with them.
Hmm.
You've you've built a mutual context with the friend. And so you can go deeper and talk about deeper things than you would just a random person you met on the street.
Yeah.
So the value that you can give to that older person in that situation is to build the context for them. Hey, Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so, I know this about you already in some sense. That's what you could be telling them when you ask about their experience at their third job and what they learned working for this boss. Well, now all of a sudden you're coming at the interaction with a completely different perspective than, hey, what is your job today and how do you like doing it? Which is the question that I'm sure they get from every single person who they talk to that's under the age of 30.
Yeah.
Now you're coming in and you're saying, when you were 30, I saw you worked at this position and I'm 23 and I want to be in that position someday. So, like, what did you learn there? And that is like a night and day difference. So, I would say do your research. And how do you do that research? You go through their LinkedIn, you go through their Twitter, you go through any public stuff that they have, and make, if it's a professional setting, make sure that they've said this stuff publicly or they've put it out publicly, and learn. And one helpful thing, if this person is in a position of power, that a lot of people have gotten uh, good success from, is type in the person's name and their hometown or their university, and put that on Google. And the reason for that is because their hometown or their university is going to cover them in more detail and at a similar point in your own journey than like the New York Times might, or like a bigger publication might. So I think that's a useful tip people can use to get closer to the people who are in power, that are maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years older than them.
It's so funny that you bring that up. It's crazy. Kind of ties into what I wanted to bring up next, which is, so if someone is going to someone else and they know they've been asked a bunch of questions. So you could think this in any context in your personal life. If you're going on a date, I'm sure the person you're on the date with has been asked the same questions a million times. If you're going into a
Mhm.
job interview, I'm sure that person's been asked the same questions a million times. If you're going into a podcast interview, I'm sure the person's been asked the same question a million times. So, how do you go about asking not just a new question, but a new question that's actually good? So,
Mm.
this question for you is inspired by something that I got when I was looking up Danny Miranda hometown. So, I found another quote, and let's see if you recognize what this is from. So, it says, "Every senior athlete has his or her own story, his or her own future, and his or her own past." Do you know what that was from?
Was that from the Schreiber Times?
It was.
Or-
That was you writing about how senior athletes at your high school were going off to college. And that was just in the middle of the passage. And I was like, that was so deep for no reason. Like, it was just a news outlet being like, oh, yeah, Jimmy Smith's going to Hofstra to play lacrosse. I was like, that's a bit deep. But I thought it was really good because I know you have a lot of experience doing journalism on sports.
Mhm.
So, in your scenario, let's say you had an athlete come on the show.
Mm.
They get asked the same questions over and over again, and it's kind of a meme at this point that they get asked dumb questions in post game interviews and everything like that. So, if you had an athlete that you really admired, how would you go about asking them a new question but not just a new question for the sake of asking a new question that also unlocks a new aspect of their character, of their mindset, something like that.
I think a cool thing to do is think about it from your own experience or perspective. You know that it's a new question when it ties directly into something you've done or you've thought about. Like, what's the question that only you can ask? I can't ask the question about how my dad beat me when I was 7 years old because he didn't. And I have no experience with that. But you might have that experience, or someone might have that experience who is in that position. And it doesn't have to be a negative experience, it could also be an extremely positive experience if you can see that it relates to that person in some way. So I think vulnerability is a huge thing in this perspective of like, how much of yourself are you willing to bring into the question, into the conversation to get that unique perspective? And it's not about making it about you. Like, you don't bring that up to make it about you, but to give the person a sense of like, this is the thing that I can ask because I'm actually interested in it. So that's what I would say.
For you, getting a little more personal, if you don't want to go down this road, we don't have to. What are some questions that your mom particularly asked you when you were younger
Hmm.
that really stuck with you?
I don't know if there was any questions that stuck with me from what she did, but she just listened. She listened really well, and she was clearly there for me and clearly there for my growth and evolution. And I think and that's an important thing to note as well is like, when you're talking to people, it's not about asking the perfect question. Are you really listening? Like, you are? Like, are you really there with the person? And then are you trying to guide them, or are you trying to go to a place of growth for that person? To me, like, that's what a great question is. If you're listening and present to the creation and you're guiding someone, like guiding someone by way of the question that you don't know if it actually is going to guide them or not. But that's what my mom did for me. And it wasn't any one particular like thing that she said that stuck with me. And that was the thing. It was more her ethos, and her ethos to this day of like, I love you. I care about you. I'm going to ask about the situations because I love and care about you. And it's not something I have to check off. Like, I'm here for your evolution and growth. And that's how I felt growing up. That's how I feel to this day. And that's what I try to instill in podcast guests that come on the show. Just like, I love you. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully I'll ask you some stuff that makes you grow, but if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Yeah. I know you've said multiple times that your mom and your grandma both try to listen to every single appearance that you have, every single interview that you do. What does that feel like? Knowing that no matter what, someone's listening to you. Because I know there's a lot of people who go through this life and they feel like never once in their whole life have they been listened to. So
Mm,
having that in your life, how much does that mean to you?
yeah. Yeah. That's really an astute observation on your part. It means a lot to me. And, God bless them that I don't know if they can get to every
Yeah.
podcast and guest appearance these days, since I'm banging them out like a full-time job to just
Yeah.
listen to my everything I put out on the internet. But I mean, dude, it's like, it's the greatest thing in the world. Like, just to have a connection with two people like that, I can't put it into words. They just understand me so much and support me so much of just like, you're amazing. It's like
Mhm.
what they've said so often, even without saying it. And and to have that as like the baseline, it's like, they don't care if I sell out Madison Square Garden or not. I've already won. I feel like I've already won too. And everything I do is just a base. That's the baseline, and everything else is just added on top. So, I think it's very difficult to believe in yourself if no one else has ever believed in you before. But I do think that you need to make it your mission to at least get one person to believe, one person you respect, one person you admire to believe in you, because your life is depending on it. And
Mhm.
it really matters. It really matters, like, to get the belief of someone. And how do you get that belief of someone? Work hard. Like, if you don't have it naturally, like, fight for it because it's worth having. And I'm not fighting for anyone's belief in this moment, but if I didn't have it, I would be, because it's the most important thing in the world.
I 100% agree with you. To anyone who is a skeptic, who thinks that you can't change at your core, you can't
Mm.
change who you are fundamentally, what would you say to them?
I would say, listen, do you check out the email that I wrote to Tej on September 9th, 2019. That person wrote that email, and that was a turning point. But I had been living in that reality for like 6, 7 years,
Hmm.
right? Really sit with that. Like, yeah, there were good moments of those 7 years. Yeah. Like, it wasn't all like I was down and depressed of every moment, but like that was the general ethos for 7 years.
Yeah.
And now I'm interviewing my heroes and like I'm talking to these amazing people and things are happening, things are shaking and we're moving and I'm in my purpose and I'm in my passion. I'm living every damn day like the way I would want it to be if like I couldn't do anything else, this is it.
Yeah.
And so what I would say to people who don't feel like they could change, I mean, I understand. I've been there, but just my life is an example that you can and that you can get back to your childhood curiosities, wonder, joy, and live in it for the rest of your life. And I'll
Yeah.
let me be living proof and a living example of that
Yeah.
reality.
I've heard you talk about Danny 2.0 and how you can quite literally change yourself and people will notice, and people will comment on it. You can radiate a new energy. And whatever you got to do to convince yourself that you've changed, because you can. It's like taking pictures of yourself, seeing you change
Mm.
literally in the physical form, having a journal, seeing how your thoughts changed. All these things are so important.
Yeah.
And I want to end on a, I've never done this before, so we're going to see how this goes on a fun note. Do you have your phone on you or anything that allows you access to the internet?
I mean my computer does, obviously,
Okay.
but
Can you get your
yeah,
DMs
I
up?
got it.
Okay.
DMs.
Yeah, this is my primary way of contacting you. Um, this is either going to be really bad or really good. So
Okay.
check your DMs.
What do we got here?
That's
Oh
you.
my
That's
god.
you. Your senior year of high school.
Wow. Holy smokes. Shout out
So,
Mikey Moratis. You legend.
so when we look at senior year
I
Danny,
I wonder who's above me here
I don't
on
know.
the right.
Well,
I don't
obviously I don't know.
I don't recognize these girls either. Wow. Wow.
When you look at senior year Danny, what's one of the biggest changes you think of 28-year-old Danny now versus probably 18-year-old Danny in that picture?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it's just a clear knowing of myself. And I knew myself then, but I'm living in knowing myself today.
No.
And I'm deepening my awareness of self, and I'm expanding every day, and I'm following the thing that I was put on this earth to do, and I maybe had a sense back then for those things, but I was living in other people's reality, and I did that, and would continue to do that for the next 7 years of my life.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, man. I mean, it's remarkable. Like that's a completely different human being,
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's the same one.
It's the
It's the
same one.
same consciousness. And that dichotomy is so fascinating. And so I think it's special to realize and recognize the growth. And I appreciate you sending me that
Of
photo.
course. Absolutely. I want to ask you the show staple question. And it's a topic that you talk about quite a lot. So hopefully you get a kick out of this. After everything that you've learned so far, what have you learned about love?
It comes from within. It comes from within. And when it does, you can radiate it out to as many people as have connection to the internet.
Yeah.
like like you like I don't know, man. There's hundreds of thousands of different people who have seen my tweets and messages and podcasts and all this stuff. And like that just started because I started meditating and I did 75 hard and all of it. And it's like what it has been for the last 3 years is nothing compared to what it'll be in the fourth year, which is nothing compared to what it'll be in the fifth year, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. I'm not stopping. And so I'm just radiating out love, and it all started from within. It all started from me doing the things that I knew I was capable of doing and just following the path. So, yeah, man, I've learned that love is an internal game, and that it can radiate to out to as many people as can see it. Special.
100%. I usually end it on that, but I'll give people a little teaser. I know you love to ask guests for challenges, and I want to issue one to you,
Love
but I
that.
want to keep it a secret because I
Okay.
don't want people to hear about it. So yes, there is a challenge for Danny. We can like Mission Impossible it. You can choose to accept it or not.